One. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Esports Podcast. My name is Chris Kid Liquid Okamura, and I'm here with Cable and Pepidus. How's it going,
Hello.
fellas?
Hey.
Awesome, guys.
Going good.
So we're on episode 2. It is May 26th, 2015. We have gone through 2 weeks of the LCS. We've gone through... Well, actually, LCS starts this weekend. We've gone through 2 weeks of the LCK and the LMS and the LPL, all that stuff. But we're going to start with where we ended off last time with some Counter-Strike. So we talked last week a little bit about Counter-Strike and how that's sort of a growing scene. Cable, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Even this week, I was contacted by a local guy who wants to put on a tournament at a LAN center. And he's asking for my help and support. And SoCal Esports, can you guys help us out getting sponsors or how could blah blah blah? So, hey, it's just more and more. This is the way it was with StarCraft at the very beginning. That there was just so much fervor and excitement. Everybody wants to do a little event here and there. I mean, this guy was me at that time. So I'm excited. I like it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, though, like you're saying, this is how StarCraft was at the front, but like CS:GO has been out since 2012. Like,
right.
This is so interesting to me how this has just kind of exploded.
That I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can shed the light because I don't actively play CS a lot, so I don't know if anything's changed in the game or if there's anything specific that's ignited this resurgence or this ground movement.
So truthfully, I think this is, it's a little bit of the runoff of the MOBA dominance that we've seen for like the past 4 years. Like, think of, whenever anyone said esport, like the first thing was it's either Dota or League of Legends. And people just got so used to it. I think they actually actively grew tired of it. They're like, you know what? I've seen these. What else is out there? Like, you had to be curious eventually. You don't sit in your nice little esports bubble and say, League's the only thing I'm going to do for eternity. It's just League and Dota. So a lot of people naturally got curious about things, and CSGO pops up as really kind of rank 3 in popularity. I think on Twitch now it's actually ranking 2nd now.
Yeah, it's beating out Dota.
Yeah, it's beating out Dota on Twitch viewership. And
right now.
Yeah, it's actively like getting there and getting there. The streaming has gotten better. If you actually look at the people who are top streamers on Twitch that are full-time streamers, you have your like slew of your like Night Blue I'm a Cutie Pies for League of Legends, but there is a large amount of streamers for CS:GO that create a magnitude of content. Like, I'm talking guys that are average or that have like subscriberships in the 600,000 to 700,000, which is like, they are really, really strong, and there are a lot of them, and they come at all different varieties. Like top just off pro level, like with Summit G, who's an ex-pro that now streams full-time. And a lot of them, they don't play just CSGO. Like, they'll take time off and they'll play like DayZ or whatever other game they want to. But, for the majority of the time, they come back to it. So there's a good amount of them. Also, Gold Glove. Gold Glove also plays it. His fiancé, girlfriend, who's also another big streamer. I think her followership's in the like 500,000 range, also plays CSGO. So there's just a huge CSGO community that streaming has finally caught up to it. ESL has done an amazing job bringing CSGO to the forefront. I don't think Valve's been as strong in support of CSGO as it has been for Dota. I think they see, the blood in the water with Dota, and they're like, okay, we can really make some money off of Dota. I don't think they've seen that with CSGO because it's kind of that pre-packaged good of, okay, we sold you the main package, now we just, keep you along for now. But the work that ESL has done for CSGO is fantastic. And Europe, bar none, gets the award for keeping CSGO alive for a long time.
Yeah.
To now the point where other places are taking it in. The main question for me for CSGO, is, will it really capture the Asian market? And I mean, we're talking Korea, Taiwan, China.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that was kind of weird about like 1.6 even is like 1.6 had such a huge following in Europe, and Europe was known as like the CS like hotbed.
It still is. It
yeah,
still is.
And it still is. No, it still is. But I mean, like CS 1.6 had a pretty stable and long-standing relationship with esports for a long time, and it's still, up until like a year or so ago, it still had a pretty strong scene. All of them kind of moved over to CS:GO right now, but it kept that without even a strong Asian market holding it up.
Yeah, and I hate to drag off while we're talking about CS:GO. That is where I see the opportunity in Overwatch. I'm sure we'll cover that in some episode down the road. But I'm waiting to find the first real FPS title that takes a hold of Asia. I think that's going to be the FPS title that wins out overall, because we have two very stagnated regions for FPS. In the United States, it's still very much COD.
I think it's losing grip, though.
It is losing grip. It is losing grip. I'm going to say the war is, going over to CS:GO. It's going towards the PC Master Race, as I'm sure someone's thinking there. PC Master Race! But yes, CS:GO is taking a large foothold in the United States. But when you look at, money spent, tournament size, viewership, United States only, COD is still in the lead. And, it's actually like a difference of platforms. Twitch, CS:GO is the main game. YouTube, it is still a lot of Call of Duty. So choose your platforms. But Europe has been, CS:GO headquarters. They're so good at it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the Swedish man.
You look at TSM, like Team America and League of Legends. They're like, we want to make a good CS:GO team. Where do they go? They just pack it.
Fly over to Sweden.
Yeah, they're like, we need Swedes or Danes. I can't remember which. I get it mixed up with CS:GO. I'm like,
I think it's Swedes.
It is TSM Swedes?
Let me see. I'll look it up. Keep talking.
Because I know Ninjas in Pajamas is Swedish, but for some reason I think TSM's Danish. I could be wrong. There's somebody I'm sure
Denmark.
out there more qualified to say it.
They're Denmark.
They're Danish.
They're Danish.
Yeah, they're Danish.
Oh, nice.
Woo! That's
Very
right.
well done.
Yeah,
Ernie
but like
Mike
everyone
Potter.
else is Swede.
Yeah, everyone else is Swedish, like Fnatic Swedish and all of that
yeah,
stuff.
Fnatic Swedish, Ninja Pajamas Swedish. Yeah. Very good, my friend. Your CS:GO knowledge impresses me.
Yeah, and
European geography.
Yeah, is Virtus Pro? I want to say they're Polish.
Virtus Pro is German or Polish, yeah, and they're Polish.
Boom!
Wow!
Wow, that's impressive.
He's on it. He is on it.
Oh man, I'm so good. But yeah, and actually, you know what? I always pull for Polish teams when they're in this when they're in these competitions. Poland, not the greatest economical power in Europe, but they put some dedicated people into these teams. Like when Rocket had its run, who is before Rocket?
In what game?
In League of Legends, there have been two like completely Polish teams that have played in the EU LCS.
It was Meet Your
One
Makers,
was Rocket. What?
Was it Meet Your Makers?
It was the original Meet Your Makers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So each of them enjoyed their own little time in the sun, and I'm like, yeah, Polish team. Your land has been conquered by so many people, but now you get to be a little resilient. And then eventually it gives way.
Sure, and so let's get back on track here real quick. But I will say on the Overwatch topic, I think that really depends on the pricing model that Blizzard chooses to go with, whether it's free to play or anything like that. Free to play games catch on really, really quickly with Korean markets, especially, and the Chinese market as well. With the way
I got to assume it's
with the way the PC
market,
the PC cafe sort of scene happens in Asia, like that's just going to catch on like wildfire.
Well, it's a Blizzard game. It means they auto-win China. It's
True.
like the passive for Blizzard now. You are #1 game in China on release.
Yeah, because it's passive. It's a passive. Yeah, but no, the thing with CS:GO that I think is kind of a reason why I think it's the effect of sort of the effect that StarCraft 2 had on Brood War, where Brood War was still around and still a huge scene in Korea, around for years after StarCraft 2's release, and then once people or once more sponsors started moving things over to StarCraft 2, players started moving over to StarCraft 2, and the entire league started moving over to StarCraft 2, or just closing down. Then as soon as you start losing that backing for CS 1.6, then you start going to Go.
Right.
And honestly, I don't think that it was as much as an inferior game. I think it was just more of a comfort level. So I don't think it's entirely like a Brood War to SC2 kind of a thing, but I think it's more of like okay, let's just move on here. Like, this is the next thing. Let's go. Let's move.
And I think they probably learned a little from Brood War, to be honest. Where it's like, we can either have the super messy division, or we can just take the logical evolutionary step and go.
Sure, they can go over to Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Honestly, I think CS:GO, from what I've seen, it has a lot of potential in terms of a shooter. Personally, I still think the shooter with the most potential that I've seen in a while was Shootmania. Does anyone? Do you guys know about Shootmania?
I was really popular again in the Asia markets, right?
Yeah.
It was a free to play FPS.
It wasn't free to play. I think it was like $30 on Steam.
Oh, really?
Correctly? Yeah. Or 20 or 30, I can't remember. But I rember paying money for it.
Wasn't MLG gonna pick that up? Or I feel like
this is years ago.
IPL. That's why you liked it.
IPL did. But like Dylan, do you know anything about Shootmania?
I do not. You've hit my blind spot here. So
okay, so dude, Shootmania was this game. It's the same people that made Trackmania, which is this racing game.
Right. I know Trackmania.
And so Shootmania was their next project, and so it's a hyper fast Twitch-based shooter. So think like Unreal or anything like that, with that kind of style of movement where it's a lot of jumping and a lot of quick movements and very Twitch-based. But there's no weapon system. We have one weapon. That's like a arm cannon laser thing, and you have 3 charges. So you have 3 shots, and then it charges back up. So there's no reloading system or anything like that. And so it's very precise. So 2 shots kill anywhere, 1 shot headshot, and that's it. And everything else is all movement based. And so there's charges on sprint, there's charges on jumping. You can double jump, or you can just one hyper jump, which is a little slower to land, stuff like that. Like, it's just, there's so much depth to that game. And the great level design and a lot of community-based level design as well. So they have full open sourcing on their map editor, so you can go ahead and make maps. And that game was absolutely insane. The game mode that IPL picked up, which I thought was really cool, was it was like think of it like capture the flag kind of a thing, but it was defense and offense, where you had 3 players defending, and then 1 player from each team, or 1 player from the opposing team, would try to rush the base. So they could either take out all 3 people or go and touch the flag. They didn't need to bring it back in the thing, but they just needed to touch the point, and then they would score. And then it would rotate to all 3 players. So we'd play 3 rounds of offense, 3 rounds of defense. Right. And so it was a 3-on-1 kind of a thing, where it's really interesting in that way.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of strategy to it and a lot of depth to it, because there's a lot of ways you can go around it and a lot of positioning for the defending team and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting to kind of take a look at. So if you can actually search it up too. If you go ahead and search on YouTube for IPL Shootmania, there's a lot of great highlights on there. But yeah, I highly suggest going out and checking that out. It still has a really, really great community. But after IPL went down, no one's really picked that game back up, and it kind of lost a lot of steam.
Now, I do want to actually talk about a point while we're covering CS:GO, and this is one of the things you're probably not going to hear unless you talk to someone that's really done extensive marketing. And this is one of the reasons why shooters do not get the same level of investment as, say, a MOBA does.
Yes, so I think I know where you're going.
Right.
Is it the gun topic?
The guns and violence topic. It's actually something we don't talk about a lot in esports, but it's important. So a lot of people look at what are called, non-endemic sponsors. So these are the sponsors that aren't actively trying to sell you like RAM, gaming peripherals. So think, your Old Spices, your even to some degree HTC phones as they did it,
Yeah.
or a company like Coca-Cola, Red Bull, Pepsi. So one of the problems they have with shooters is the fact that it's not brand values to do harm to others. You can get away with it in MOBAs because it's very cartoonish levels of violence. You don't really have blood pooling unless you have like Vladimir, but even then, that's like it's a side case. It's not blood and guts pooling. Whereas you take a game like Counter-Strike, it's very imitatable real violence.
Yeah.
You're talking about the real guns. You're talking about human beings. You're talking about things that's very objectionable content to some people. To the players and its active fan base. It's something they don't really recognize. It's something, it's a shooter game. This is what you do in a shooter game. But you take a 40, 50-year-old, someone who is an executive at one of these companies, and they're like, I'm not sponsoring people to shoot other people. That's, that's not what I want my brand to be represented from. And it's one of the active hurdles that the FPS game and environment has to work through. And it's sad in my mind because there are great communities. There are communities that deserve the sponsorship level that you get with other games that should have the investment. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, Call of Duty has, Mountain Dew, but that's for their prepackaged good. They'll sell the package because that helps sell the product. But at the end of the day, they aren't, actively there with MLG every single step of the way. Red Bull stepping up, I think, is great. Red Bull has one of the few chances to be there because they have a very unique brand value set from anyone else. They're active, they're edgy, they're on the line of, what you think a brand should be, and they can play there. So they're
same with Monster, right?
Yeah, them and Monster. They can walk this line. And even then, they have to be careful. Because they have to tell the story that's energetic, that's, the positives, the teamwork, the hard work. That's what they can sell, but they can't sell the violence.
And the kidney stones.
Yeah, well, they can't, think of the words you have to use with an FPS game, which is frag, kill, headshot. Those aren't words that are positive. Those aren't words that you think, oh, this will sell my product. Nothing says cool and frosty beverage like headshot. And it's a hurdle for them to overcome.
Sure.
Yeah, I would tend to agree from the community perspective as well. We do viewing parties in bars, and we work with, for instance, high school Star League, right? Neither of those places are going to ever feature an FPS. They just plain won't because, like you said, somebody walks into a bar and sees a shooter game on the big projector screen. If they're non-endemic to gaming, if they're not a gamer, they're going to walk out the door immediately. Most of them, unless they're a bro or unless they have friends in the military who are really into strategy. Or there's a subset of people who will, but the majority of your families or normal sports fans who come into the restaurant, they're going to walk out and they're going to complain. They're going to call the manager. They're going to call corporate office and say, why are you showing shooting people and blood and people dying on the big screen? This is not what I come in for a relaxing evening for.
If you've ever heard of the mother groups in Korea, which is this active lobbying group in Korea that's super anti-violence. I learned this with packaging last year, that you can't show characters with weapons on packaging in Korea because these mother groups will actively lobby to get your product off shelves.
Yeah.
And
StarCraft
imagine
had to have a disclaimer, right, of violence.
Mm-hmm. And even with cartoony characters, like say League of Legends, where some of the weapons don't even look like weapons, you still have to avoid it at all. So now imagine taking Counter-Strike Go, where your only characters are carrying an AK-47, and that's a heart attack waiting to happen for some poor Korean mother.
Yeah. And all this said, it is unfortunate, but at the same time, it's understandable. And maybe it should be this way. Maybe we shouldn't be emphasizing shooting violence of people too much to young people who don't have the maturity to handle it properly. So maybe there should be a maturity level or a floor, I guess, to this of the people who should be involved.
Sure, and I think going off all that stuff, besides the more political side of things and the business side of things, just the stigma of the communities that FPSs kind of create, just the
Another
stigma.
Good point.
Just the stigma of when you think of Call of Duty, what do you think of? You think of the 13-year-old kid cussing up a storm on his Xbox Live headset. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I have that image for Call of Duty. I think if I hop on Xbox Live right now and play a Call of Duty game, I'm gonna get cursed out by some super nasal kid who's 15.
That is going to beat.
I don't have that for CS:GO. I really don't.
No.
Yes and no. You run into it for sure, but I had a conversation actually with some FPS guys. They were old Halo guys. They dabbled in Call of Duty. They dabbled in CS:GO, and they were against the realism that's coming into shooters so much, and that's why they don't like a lot of these Call of Duty. There's a lot of sales potential to the realism. Oh, this is modern warfare, right? This is the way it really is. We can be like it is in the army, but this is a video game. We don't necessarily want realism in every video game. We don't want to die to one shot all the time, right? In the real world, you get shot once in the chest, you're dead. Yeah, okay, you have bulletproof vests, or you get shot in the knees, you can kind of hobble around and shoot. Okay, but again, we're starting to get into really weird realism things. That do we really want that in our video games that we play? Versus Halo, you're this armored soldier, and you're having you have shields and you have super jumps and you have so there's differences there.
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to talk about something really quick going off that point of super realistic games. Did you guys play for the PlayStation 1 Bushido Blade?
No.
Because that is the greatest game that never took off ever. Well, okay, I guess they made Bushido Blade 1 and 2, but think of this, okay? It's a fighting game where you're playing with weapons, right? You have your main guy. The main guy of the character is a samurai, right? Then you have guys that have nunchucks or pole arms or spears, stuff like that. And it's a super realistic fighting game. So you have attacks that hit low or high or lunge or anything like that. If I cut off your arm, you can't lose your arm. If I cut off your leg, you limp around. And if I stab you once, you're dead. That's it. And you bleed out. Yeah, eventually, you bleed out too. So, if I cut you in the arm and you're bleeding, you will eventually bleed out if I can just run around.
Wow, that sounds exactly what I want, except for a Star Wars version.
Right? But dude, that game. Could you imagine that game as an esport? The mind games that you would play in that game are absolutely insane.
It is pretty cool, and that shows that realism sells for a reason.
Yeah.
You proclaim these realistic ideas in the game, and we're like, man, that sounds really fun. I would really, because your brain can attach to it easier, right?
True.
You are used to these things. You can strategize over these things. You have thought about these things kind of before. When you're a little kid, right? And you hit somebody with your fake wooden sword and you say, oh, your arm. And so you put your arm behind your back or your knee.
You go
and
LARPing.
So you start limping on one leg. Right, LARPing. Exactly. So I understand it. But at the same time, do we always need it? Sometimes it is nice to have the cartoony. Sometimes it is nice to have the futuristic, fantastical.
Sure, very much so. And I think that's why you're starting to see. That's why IPL went with Shootmania, because that game wasn't with guns. It had lasers. You were aliens. You were robots.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of the funny things. When I told my dad I wanted to work in gaming, he said, "Well, if you're going to work in gaming, do one thing for me. Over the entire time you're there, advocate for less violence in games."
Yeah.
And that's really hard because the thing that sells games is violence. So I mean, it's always going to be a fight because that's what sells. It's what sells movies. I mean, this is not something that's just video games. It's not like violence is the only present in video games. It's present everywhere. But finding a way to maybe at least take away the realism of the violence to find ways to lessen the importance of the violence, maybe that is something we need to focus on.
Yeah, I personally think so. I don't play a lot of rated M games that are hyper realistic violence. For that very fact, I don't need to expose myself to it. It doesn't make sense to me personally, nor do most of my friends get into that kind of thing. Not that that's wrong for anybody else to do, but that's just my personal preference. And so CSGO, I understand, and I enjoy CSGO. I think it's a fun game. Call of Duty, that's over my line. I don't really get into it. Halo, I love Halo. Or Jedi Knight, right? Anything Star Wars, you got me. But again, it's the anti-realism in Star Wars. There's so much fantasy in Star Wars. There's shields, there's lightsabers, there's force powers, there's repeaters, there's all kinds of jetpacks, and that's the kind of stuff I feel like we need.
Yeah, it's the line of fun over realism, or fun over I guess realism is the best way to put it.
Don't get me started on Star Wars esports, man.
We're gonna go deep into this once we start talking about Battlefront later in a couple of weeks. But
yeah.
So let's move on. Let's switch topics really quickly. We're gonna go something a little more lighthearted. So a couple of weeks ago, or I guess a week ago or so, Reddit r/League of Legends was talking about joking, or I guess more of in a joking kind of a matter, talking about starting or buying a challenger team, crowdfunding and everything like that. The power of Reddit, so to speak. Taking name suggestions. I think the name they came up with was eventually Winner Benched was the name they came up with.
Or Dank Bean Gaming. It was a really two-horse race.
Yeah, there was a two-horse race between there, and then apparently started getting real actual players. So they got Shorter Ace and I'm a Cutie Pie to agree to be on this team. And then eventually, the community started kind of collapsing within itself, saying this is a bad idea, and then eventually the idea just kind of died out. Thoughts or opinions on this, guys? I mean, the power of Reddit is strong, but is this even a good idea? Should they even do this? I know they didn't, but I mean, how bad would this have been?
I followed it loosely, and I also watched the entirety of the vlog from Esports Law.
Yeah.
In theory, it could be awesome. It could really be awesome. In practical application, with Reddit as the facilitating medium, and with the Redditors, you have no guarantee of who they are, or what they stand for, or how many of these Redditors are the same person.
Yeah.
In practical application, that is not going to work. It evidenced itself. I wonder what would have come of it if the original poster who kind of started going off on it was a little more reasonable or experienced. Because it seemed like the degradation of the whole thing came from his lack of experience, came from his inability to have meaningful conversations with other people who were interested in the project. And it just all sloped down from there. I think it maybe could have lasted a little bit longer, maybe got a little more steam with somebody more competent at the helm from the very beginning. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't have degraded eventually anyways again, though.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is the crowdfunding idea, or the idea of where this funding would come from. I know the power of Reddit's strong, but I mean, once you have people start putting their own money into something, you start getting the Kickstarter effect, where they feel like this is, it essentially is. Everyone is partially an owner once you start putting their money into it, and so you start getting a lot of opinion, especially with Reddit. That's thousands and thousands of opinions, and
686,000 opinions.
Yeah, that's a lot of opinions. And so yeah.
I mean, let's make one thing clear. When you crowdfund, you are not an owner.
No.
You have no ownership.
But the idea that people have in their heads is that they are.
Yeah, that's so.
And that's where you get the trouble.
If you're looking at a model like this, there's really one organization you can actually look at. That's a trusted sports organization. You look at the Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers, yeah. Exactly.
That's
the Green Bay Packers are a publicly traded commodity for ownership. So
within the city of Green Bay.
No, anyone can own them. I'm a part owner of the Green Bay Packers. I have one share of the Green Bay Packers.
Do you really?
Yes, of course I do. I'm a Packers fan.
Fun fact of the day, folks.
There is something more tied to the locality of Wisconsin, though, isn't there? I think there's a little bit more.
The vast majority of the ownership is the is the city of Green Bay, Wisconsin. But the fact goes that you can still buy a share.
Right.
Like it's a traded commodity. People are always selling. They do cost a bit nowadays. It's not like buying, a $15, $20 stock. It's more like you're buying someone's like family possession. So, know your price ranges. But the way it works is the fact that there are shareholders, and shareholders hold a voice. But your voice it's proportional to how much you actually own of the team. So there is a vast majority owned with a small subgroup, which you could call an owner. That they are many owners. It's an ownership group, but they hire a coach, they hire a general manager, and those are the people that take care of the day-to-day. Now, does everyone who owns a share of the Packers get to say, "Oh, I'm benching that left tackle for his understudy"? Heavens no. That is an awful idea. That is the absolute worst idea possible. You're not going to build a cohesive unit throwing pieces in and out each day. I mean, yes, you could potentially, let's say you build this fear factor in the players that, oh, if I don't perform at my best, I'm going to be benched, so let's, binge practice. But let's remember, pressure is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Pressure can refine you into a diamond, or it can crumble you into powder. Which way you compress is, something that takes cajoling, it takes careful watch from a coach and a great staff, and hopefully a good ownership group that's going to invest in you having the right equipment, the right living space. So just saying we're going to put everyone on the line of starting or benching and saying this is going to make you a better player, it's absolutely ridiculous. It takes a steady hand. It takes people that know what they're doing. I mean, we've seen this. Like, we talk about teams saying, you need a better coaching staff. You need a better infrastructure. And everybody's like, oh, if we magically throw money at this, it'll appear. That's how these things work.
Yeah.
And no, you don't buy this at Walmart. You carefully search. You take time. You take effort into building the right team. You get the right ownership group who's going to have the right level of interaction with the players. It's a whole long process. Don't think that, the power of crowd-funded money can make anything that's really worth value when the right people aren't involved.
Absolutely.
Sure, and just speaking from personal experience, so when Call Gaming was in when we made it into the Challenger scene last split, or a couple splits ago, right? That was at a time where I had a ton of experience. I've had a ton of experience in esports and managing teams and working with players and being a coach and being a manager, and I'm comfortable in that role. But that was sort of the biggest stage that I had been placed on in a while, and so having, not only people that were invested, so like people like Cable, that was, SoCal Esports was a sponsor of ours. Cable giving me advice of what I should maybe do, or things that I should maybe work on. My partner as well, giving some advice and things like that, as well as everyone that just cared about me, that wanted me to do well and succeed, giving their own input of how they felt, or what was going wrong, what was going right, things like that. Friends, family, things like that. That's a lot of input, and for me being experienced, even I was a little stressed out or overwhelmed by the amount of input that was being flooded into me at the time, because it was within a couple of weeks, and that's a lot of things to process, a lot of things that I don't really want to do this, but is it right for the team? Is it right for this? And that's maybe 30 to 40 people giving me input, and people that genuinely that are my friends, that genuinely care about me and care about my success and the team's success. Right now, you're going ahead putting someone that doesn't have nearly as much experience as I had at the time, and then having potentially 600,000 people giving input. No way. That is absolutely insane.
I think, again, the esports law guy said it right, that if this was some kind of community leader or a popular streamer, or say I'm a Cutie Pie or Night Blue, or one of these big top name streamers came in and said, I want to do this, he would get the funding because he just has the name, he has the voice, he has the celebrity.
Sure.
He may have the experience, he may have the contacts, he may have the strategy to actually execute this. you have some dangers involved there too, because he knows how to manipulate the system a little bit. He knows how to manipulate people a little bit, right? Like, how do you think he gets so many donations? It's not because he's a manipulator, quote unquote, but he knows how to be a public figure such that you get a lot of donations.
Yeah.
Not picking either one of these two guys out. I'm saying a popular streamer in general.
Sure.
So
but I think that's a talent as well. I don't think it's them manipulating. I think it's a manipulation thing, but I think it's it's a talent kind of a thing. That you got to be a talented person to be able to do that.
They deserve the donations. I'm not saying anything negative about the streamers.
Sure.
I'm just saying that they know how. It's again a two-edged sword. So if someone like that were the pioneer of this topic, it maybe could have happened, and it would have been interesting to follow. And the best model would have been like the Green Bay Packers, where everybody has a share. And every share has a vote, but the people who own the most shares obviously have the most say in the votes. And I think, again, the esports law guy said that you have like a board of directors of, say, maybe 7 members, and the top 2 donators are guaranteed board spots. And then the next 4 are pulled from the top 15, other 15 donators who would have to submit applications, video qualifications. They'd have to go through screening processes and interviews, and they would be picked by the rest of the crowd. That becomes a popularity contest, not so much a qualifications contest. There's a lot of problems with it. But at the end of the day, even if it was put on by a more legitimate starter, the problems that you mentioned about everybody, the whole crowd, Reddit crowd, wanting to bench somebody, or upheaval starting and top Reddit threads starting, I didn't get my this because of that, and this manager is a bad manager, let's bench him. It's very problematic.
Sure. And the thing is that it works well as a joke or as something that's funny or maybe even a community thing. But like, you're talking about people's livelihoods here. If you're benching people and starting them and like that's not it's not going to work out.
A few examples of this that actually have gone through similarly. I remember in StarCraft a while back,
with Crank?
We got Crank and Marine King. Remember?
Yeah, Marine King went to IPL.
Right.
Yeah, Marine King to IPL and Crank to MLG, right?
Yeah. And those were positive. So what the community has to understand when they're going into these things is they're just going into it for their own pleasure. They're paying for something that they enjoy. Don't expect a return back out of it. Don't expect to say in what hotel room that Marine King picks or what taxi cab he chooses. These are like minuscule details, but so long as they understand that. I remember even my father, when I first started getting into esports, he said, just remember that you could either spend thousands of dollars playing golf, or you might spend thousands of dollars on esports, even if you're trying to make it into a business. So remember that this is your hobby. First and foremost, and you need to enjoy this. Yeah. Whether or not you make a return on the investment, remember it's your hobby and enjoy what you're doing. And so, again, if these people are like, okay, even the Dogecoin sponsoring the NASCAR thing, I think that was given as an example.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Amazing crowdfunding initiative. But they all knew they were just getting a kick out of it.
Yeah.
They didn't think they were getting something or return or anything back out of it. It was just this is hilarious to see a Dogecoin logo on a NASCAR car.
Yeah. That's funny to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I do want to do one public statement here. Kids, never give people on the internet your money.
Yeah.
Never do it. So
unless it's through a company.
Yeah, if there's a company and someone you can directly sue, make sure that you have the right to get this money back in some way, shape, or form. Because this was one of the things when the guy said, I'm going to start crowdfunding for this team. That meant there was a large pool of money that was going to a person.
Yeah.
It was in his name. That money would have been in his name. Unless he says, give money to this LLC that I do not have ownership of.
Yeah.
Or that is, held by an arbiter. Just make sure that it's not going to a person. Because when you're handing money over to a person on the internet, there's no guarantee that money's doing what you think it is.
Sure. Yeah, we've absolutely seen that in esports too. Again, coming from the StarCraft community, there's more than a few broken promises, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, every community. I think there's not an esports community alive that hasn't had issues with money.
Yeah.
But I will say, though, so Reddit got rid of that idea. And then they started to sort of think about maybe even buying or like sponsoring an existing team. So like if they all of a sudden sponsored Unicorns of Love, right? So Unicorns, they became the official sponsor of Unicorns of Love, and they became the Reddit team. Like, I think that would work. I think that would be kind of cool.
Why? Explain.
I just think that it's sort of the thing where the Unicorns of Love has this huge fan base already. But I mean, imagine if it's an official Reddit team. Like, you're being funded by a community. You're not sponsored by a big corporation, by a big money maker. You're sponsored by a community that wants to see you guys succeed and help. I think
as
that's
a
cool.
team owner, as a team manager, explain to me the logistics of how that works.
Of what? How
would
it's kind of like what happened with
prime sponsor?
Well,
or
it's
prime
like
owner?
the thing. It's like the thing that happened with Roccat, or was it Roccat? Yeah. So what's the name that Roccat always goes back to? When they're not in the LCS and they go back to being like a challenger team.
Kaides Millennia Dea, the KMD.
KMD, right? Okay, hold on. Is it that? I'm not sure.
It's something Polish that
I'm looking it up right now. They go back to being whatever. They're not. Wait. No, whatever. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, you're right. So KMT.
Correct again.
So KMT. So they go back to that name over and over again, right? So it's like if we'll use the Call Gaming example again, right? So I'll go with Call Gaming, right? So we're Call Gaming. We're in the challenger scene. We get to the LCS. All of a sudden, we have all kinds of companies ready to give us money to put their name on our team, right? So you have minor sponsors. You have you have HTC. You have Razer. You have all this stuff that just wants a patch on there, right? Then for a majority amount of money, or you can discuss it contractually or whatever, that some company is gonna go ahead. So we'll say SoCal Esports is gonna go ahead and then pay a portion of is gonna pay a salary and regularly pay our players to go ahead and play for this team. So it works in that way. So I become more of a majority owner, and then maybe I'll own 40% of the team, and then the sponsor will own about 60%. And then we'll mutually make decisions together. Of course, you'll have a little more say because you'll have the money involved. But then you'll go ahead and just your big thing is you'll have the team in there. So it will be Team SoCal Esports rather than Call Gaming.
Yeah, but with Reddit, how does that work? Because it's not going to be official Reddit, the company. It's going to be r/League of Legends. It's not going to. I mean, you'll call it the Reddit team, but it's /r/League of Legends.
Sure.
Which is the community of 690,000 people.
Sure.
What do they get out of it? And how do they logistically help with the team's operations? Do they get any say? Because it kind of goes back to the same...
I mean, I think once you get back to going like that, like I've seen teams too that where the main sponsor doesn't really have much say in part of the team. They just want them to keep they'll put pressure to succeed, but they won't have any say in the day-to-day operations of what's going on and happening. And I think that would work well in the idea of if you have someone really experienced in there, like if you have Reginald with TSM, like you have someone that's been doing it for a while that can stand up to community pressure and not really care. You have someone that's going to be strong-willed and stick to their decisions and really do what's best for the team in their own opinions. I think that's going to go ahead and help in the long run with that stuff. But I think that having an established brand already and a team together, and then they're just going ahead and giving money to the team, I don't really see a problem with that.
But let me ask this question. From the fan experience, why is this better than me buying a product from that team? So the way a lot of teams get funding right now is they sell their own merchandise. If I want to support Unicorns of Love, I buy a Unicorns of Love hoodie. Guess what? They not only got my money, I'm sponsoring them. It's not a name that I'm going to see, but I know that my money has gone to sponsor them, and then I have received a product from them in return that I enjoy.
Sure.
Is any level of doing this gross sponsorship going to give the user the same end kind of
why
as
Dylan
getting a nice product?
Sure, Dylan, why do you own a share of the Green Bay Packers?
Because that is literally like the highest honor a Packers fan can have. I can be buried with that.
Sure.
But that's bingo
at the end
to...
of time, it's going to be etched into my grave.
Sure, but what if you're
what if share of the Packers?
What if that level of devotion comes from being a part of that Reddit community, and you love being a part of the Reddit League of Legends community, and you now own a share of that team? That's something that you all collectively work together to be a part of. It's the same kind of idea. It's not to the extent, of course, but I'm saying it's the same idea, the same concept.
Yeah, there's two things specifically. There's pride of ownership, and then there's fulfillment. Fulfillment of the process, like Chris said, of getting to that level of, oh my gosh, we made it. They're wearing our jersey on stage, and we helped with that, and I upvoted that specific design. Right?
Yeah, like
I upvoted.
Could you imagine though if Reddit did sponsor a team, everyone would come with a design, a jersey design, and then that stuff gets upvoted, and it gets okay, that's the official jersey of Reddit. There you go. Like
there's something to be said for your idea. And I just think the logistics of it, again, going back to what I said, is that the community just needs to know they're getting a kick out of it, and that's all it is.
But my thing is, I don't think it's a good idea. I just think that would be a better idea than starting and owning their own team.
Oh, no. By far.
That was my big thing, and I think if it happened, like I would get a kick out of seeing the Reddit alien. I would get on the LCS stage just like as a logo. I would get super jacked for that.
I'm sure that the Reddit company, the actual one that makes money off of their website, would get a great kick out of it too.
Yeah, I think they would too.
Because it's free advertising for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless the subreddit, of course, tried to put the most phallic logo possible onto an LCS jersey.
Which I wouldn't deny that Reddit would try to do that.
They'd stick Illuminati symbols on there. They'd stick 8-bit glasses. It'd be pretty amazing, but
everywhere, Doge on the back.
I think one of the best ideas. Okay, so Chris thinks that the team sponsored would be interesting. I actually think one of the better ideas that came out of it, to which some guy made a highly sarcastic post that got a lot of upvotes, but I thought he was a jerk and an idiot for posting it. My personal recommendation, but was the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
So one of the things that I stand for a lot is the pathway to the pros. And coming from the StarCraft community into the League community, even the CSGO and Dota, the pathway to the pros is very, how do you get there? You either have to just be an amazing solo queue star with an incredible personality and know people, or you just kind of luck your way into it. Or you just know people is pretty much the way that the original scene started for League of Legends. The original scene started for StarCraft. These people kind of had skill. They were in the top 15% of the players, but they knew people who knew people. So what if I don't know anybody, but I just really want to be a pro player? That's always been my goal for SoCal Esports is how do we make a pro-am scene? How do we make a pathway to the pros for local stars? In the same way, Reddit as a community, if they wanted to do something positive for the community, positive for players, is provide a true pathway. Maybe do a 1v1s tournament and take the top 5 people. Or do five 1v1s tournaments and the 5 winners, all put them together on a team and figure out how to make it work. There's some way that you could harness that energy into something productive. And I think the tournament to me is the best solution there.
See, it sounds to me like you almost want to put on like an and one tour. Do you guys ever remember the and one tour?
Yes, for basketball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would go around, find the best street ballers, and they would form a traveling team. And if someone showed up at one of their stops and was like awesome, they picked him up, and he was now an and one baller. So essentially, you could do that because geolocation breakdowns are really tough in League of Legends. One of the reasons you don't see a lot of guys, say from like Georgia, New York, Carolina, Boston, popping up and being great LoL stars is distance to the server makes playing at a high level. Yeah,
server lag, exactly.
Much, much harder. Well, you suddenly take these guys and you take someone who's used to 40 ping and then go throw him in a place where he now has to play at 100. You're going to see a lot of people now start popping up to you. It's like, this guy's got some talent. If he didn't have to play 0.06 seconds, slower than everybody else, he could really be someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the way I would harness it.
I think there's something to be said about finding players. I think honestly, League of Legends pulls in the best way to find players that we've seen in a long time. In terms of the way their ranking system works and everything like that, and the way the challenger system and the master system kind of works now as it functions. Just personally speaking, I think it's difficult the way Cable's saying to sort of form a team that way. Just a personal experience of just like there's so many factors involved with getting a team of players together. Like I've done before with StarCraft players. It's easy with StarCraft players. You just get a whole bunch of people that are like you just get talented people. There you go. Cool.
They don't have to work together.
Yeah, and then you can go ahead like play scrims. Cool. They can play against each other, get better. That's great. Fine. But with League of Legends, there's so much in terms of gameplay style. Their mentality, their demeanor, their personality. There's so much going on, and just you don't know how they're gonna perform as well until you get them in particular situations. If someone gets caught out, is this team gonna yell at that person? Who's gonna flame who? Are they gonna deal with it okay? Like, is this what is the mentality? What is the core mental aspect of this team, and do they work? And that's not even talking about the strategical aspect of it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean we're not even scratching the surface of the vast infrastructure disparity you have between a homegrown challenger team and say an organization making a challenger team. So a pre-made organization coming in saying we're going to make a challenger team is we have the money, we'll build the coaching staff, we'll get players into a house, they're going to be practicing 12, 14 hours a day, going up against this team of friends or online group of studs that came together and formed a team. You stick those two against each other, the organization's going to win. 80% of the time, that org is going to be better. Not necessarily because the players are better, but because their ability to practice, work as a team, it's all aided by having everything else about life taken away.
Right.
Whereas these other 5 people, they might be great players, and you know what? On down the road, they might be the better team. But unfortunately, they still have to deal with life. And life actively makes you worse at League of Legends.
Yes, good way to put it.
True.
Yeah, so I don't think there's a way that Reddit can really, provide infrastructure in a solid manner where they're going to give these guys a chance to really contend. It'd be nice to showcase people. I think it's great to find ways to showcase talent, which is completely right. Because, unless you have somebody that's going to put your name in with a Cloud9 CLG TSM, the road to getting a pro is very difficult. Yeah. And showcases, just chances to really show who you are, can be make or break points. One of the guys I like to point to with this is the NACC last year. Out of Washington's team, God, I don't even know what he's calling himself anymore.
Is the Z guy?
Then, Kenny U.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he bounced around the challenger scene a lot, but it was really mixed with the fact that he was top 3 in solo queue for probably 3-4 straight months. He also got a lot of screen time with the NACC, something to just let people see who he was. Another person that kind of benefited from the college scene a while back ago was UC Irvine's V-Tine. No, also V-Tine.
Yeah.
If anyone remembers back that far, solo queue, just God. V-Tine's 80 carry. He is the one player I'm still sad to this day that decided never to go on a pro team.
That guy was a monster.
I think, yeah, and he had a chance. He was actually the person that now Cloud9 wanted before Sneaky. So after Turtle left, their first call was to V-Tine. V-Tine turned them down because he wanted to graduate, get on with life. And Sneaky took in. But there's a chance right now that we could all be cheering for V-Tine in the LCS.
Yeah.
And he would be great.
It's the same thing too. If you watch any Korean solo queue, or if you've talked to anyone that watches or follows the Korean scene, challenger scene very, very closely, there is one. His name is devoid of me right now. Dylan, maybe you can help me out. But is
this the booster kid?
I'm not entirely sure. What do you mean the booster kid?
The kid who's like very blatant about his boosting, but he's super good, and
I'm not entirely sure. I've never heard any rumors about his boosting, but there's like everyone's talked about him that he's like single-handedly bodying Faker in like
Apdo?
solo queue. Yes.
Apdo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, that guy is crazy, dude. If you hear anyone talk about, like, if you talk to Korean pros, a lot of Korean pros, and you ask them like who the best mid laner is, they'll say that. That's why Koreans specifically ask like who's the best Korean mid laner in the LCK. Because if you ask any of them like who the best mid laner is, most of them will say Apdo.
This article, you should post it in the comments or in the description or whatever for people to read of this. But it's very, very long, but very thorough in its description of Apdo. Paints a picture of a regular like badass, man. This guy he does not care what Riot thinks. He does not care what Kespa thinks.
Yeah.
He doesn't care what anybody thinks. And man, it's kind of awesome to read this article. He's had so many accounts banned, and he blatantly says I'm boosting, and it's all the pros know that this kid is incredible.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, but once again, does that ego mean he'd ever be good on a team?
No, not necessarily.
No.
Agreed. Yeah.
But if we're talking about solo queue gods here, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
But I will say too, I had the same feeling about Zion when Zion first came in, and he was playing the Riven. He was playing like when he would only play Riven.
Yeah.
Like Zion was a monster back then, dude. And I thought Zion would be great, but he's never really moved past that solo queue mentality even in his pro play. He's got a lot better last split with CLG, but I mean he's never really gotten past that that overall mentality. But I think going back to the main topic here, I like the idea of a tournament. I don't like the idea of them using it to fund a team. But dude, I would watch the hell out of if they did a Saturday night King of the Hill for tournament where they just have King of the Hill as long as you can go for League of Legends. Like that'd be so much fun to watch. I would watch that every week. Get on that, Reddit.
I would. Maybe I'll get on this, or our little team here will get on this. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, dude. Like, wouldn't you watch that, man?
My favorite was Charity Fives. I actually thought that was great. Get the streamers to all come together and do.
Yeah, that was not bad.
No, that was not a bad idea either.
Yeah, Team Fives raise money for charity. I thought that was great.
Sure.
That's something I think Twitch should get behind.
I was up that the night that post was. The reason that post came up to sort of the idea came up was that night I was up at like 5 or 6 in the morning and I was watching I'm a PewDiePie stream and he was dueling with Aphromoo and he eventually ran into Dyrus and then they ran into Alex Ich and they all kept trying to queue together and it was just like screw it, let's just grab Santorin and we'll play ranked 5s. And so all the 5 of them started playing ranked 5s and then they eventually got Pobelter to be their coach. And so it was hilarious. It was all on stream.
It's awesome.
You can go back and watch it. It's great. They played from they started at around like what I remember 4 or 5 in the morning, and then they stopped at around 9 or 10 a.m. if I remember correctly. And it was just tons of fun to watch. I watched the entire thing. It was great. It was super fun to watch, and like that'd be great to go ahead and see. But I think I would watch the King of the Hill. I think that's so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the last topic really quick, though.
Well, two closing comments. So the first one is, it really makes me think of that movie Invincible, Vince Papale for the Eagles, right?
Sure.
That's the kind of stuff that I love, and I think that people love that stuff.
Sure.
The underdog story, the guy from nowhere who had no formal training, who just made his way through, and that's the kind of thing that this would appeal to. I also see a very funny Reddit parody movie in the dodgeball style of this team being made, and it could feature the popular stars, it could feature the popular players. But if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, and putting together a Reddit team, it'd be pretty hilarious,
dude. And to be spoiler, I've wanted for years. I've tried to get teams of artists and cartoonists and everything to put together an esports anime, and I've never gotten a good enough story to do it. This might be the story to do it. Look it up, folks. We're gonna go ahead and do this. Um,
Ideas abound.
so yeah, moving on really quick, guys. The last topic we're gonna go and cover today. So we have CEO to 2015. It's a fighting game tournament in Florida. CEO is a real popular one. So I think it's its 6th year, if I remember correctly. And they run mainly Smash Brothers. And so it's going to take place June 26th to the 28th. That's not the reason why we're bringing it up, though. The reason why we're bringing it up is so Zero is the best Smash Brothers for Wii U player out in the world right now. Really, really dominant. And
undisputed champion.
Yeah, and just dominant, not even close. And so there's people I think we're at $500 bounty to go ahead and knock him out of this tournament. Crowdfunded on Smashboards, and then also I think someone matched it as well. And CEO is even promoting this. I mean, how do we feel about bounties in a tournament format?
I love it. I think it's amazing. That's all I'm going to say. It's amazing.
It's solid publicity, and I mean, I'm sure they reached out to Zero beforehand. They're like, "Hey, this is not saying that we don't like you. This is something we just want to, raise the attention level here." But I mean, truthfully, Smash for the Wii U needs someone to beat Zero at this point.
Sure, it's getting
and I mean, this might be the fact that the Diddy nerf may actually hit him hard enough.
Yeah,
that somebody's closer now.
Sure, and maybe the Zero Suit stuff, he'll switch more to Zero Suit, which hasn't been as strong on.
Yeah, so I mean, he was amazing with Diddy. There was no one coming close to him while he had Diddy. Now that Diddy's nerfed a little bit, let's see how it plays out leading up to this. I got to admit, I haven't been super on it about watching how the tournaments have been, but he's been so dominant that he said he's going to go the Leffen route, which is if he wins Evo this year, and it's just undisputed, that he'll then move to Melee. Melee. Well, for some reason, Brawl and Melee get mixed up in my head.
The thing is with this in particular, I'm sort of split. I'm with Cable that I think it's awesome. I think from a community standpoint, this is great. And coming from the Smash Brothers community, this isn't out of the ordinary, right? This is the same. This is the same community that has Salty Sweets, okay? And so the only thing that I really have a problem with is the tournament going ahead and promoting it. I understand it's good promotion for the tournament. Just my thing is, it's not going to be, hey, who won the Smash for Wii U tournament? It's going to be like, hey, who knocked out Zero? That's going to be the question that's really going to pop.
Did someone knock out
Zero, right? And so that's I understand how dominant he is, and I understand that's a big focus, but for me, I don't think that's something that a tournament should be promoting. I think that's more of leave it up to the community to go ahead and push that.
I think it adds a second level of hype. You're always going to have the hype for who wins.
Oh,
you're always going to have the publicity for that. But to add a second level, I don't think that's a negative thing.
But is it?
I mean, imagine this is the tale of Zero. He's now accruing this bounty, and each tournament, it's just slowly growing and growing.
Sure.
And then you get to Evo, and his bounty's $2,000.
It's above the Evo. It's above the Evo pool.
Yeah, it's above the Evo prize. Just beating Zero, it's above the Evo prize. So then when he wins, he's championed against everyone else who went against him in great odds. And, this is actually really funny. We're talking about, $500, which when we talk about other esports, we're like, $500 prize? Good Lord, my local LAN gives out more.
Yeah.
For Smash,
Smash is good. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And this is one of the things. Zero is so dominant, almost out of necessity.
True.
If Zero didn't win almost every tournament he went to, there wouldn't be enough money for him to do this as a full-time career.
Right.
People that play Smash professionally and haven't had the luxury of getting on with a team, we've seen a good number of the top players get on with teams like TSMs, the Cloud9s. Which one's Mewtwo King on?
Mewtwo King is on... he's not on CT anymore, is he?
I don't think so.
I forget.
Let me look it up. Keep talking.
Yeah. So we've seen, some of these Melee guys get onto teams, but there are people that are hesitant about picking up a Wii U player.
MVG, by the way.
What?
MVG.
MVG. Okay. Either way, it's hard for a Wii U player to get signed to a team. So he's going to, if he does, finish out this year undefeated, goes through Evo, wins, and moves on to Melee, that's actually a huge risk to him as well. The fact that he's going to say, well, I'm going to take this, stable life I've made and hopefully make a name for myself in the next game and have the success that Leffen's had. Because Leffen's had, some pretty solid success for someone coming into the scene from a different edition of the game. So if he goes down that route, finds success, and really does well, all props to him. I think that what this bounty needs to have attached to it is the fact that if no one collects it, that it
moves
needs
on
to go to 0.
Oh, okay.
That it
I like
needs
that.
To build. It needs to build towards Evo, and
if he wins Evo, it just goes.
Yeah,
I
it
like
just
that.
goes to him.
I like that idea.
That way, for him, there's an incentive. Like, if we're going to give people who are playing against him a bonus, give him a bonus for having to deal with it.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think that's a great idea. And actually, the thing that I want to bring up too is when we're talking about career Smash as a career option. Zero recently made a Reddit post where he answered some questions and talked about it in length, about Smash being a career path and how it's not actually possible to do that. And I think he mentioned that there's less than 10 people that are living off of Smash careers personally. I think the only two he mentioned were Mango and Armada as the only two that can possibly do that, and that's with the salaries that they have with Alliance and C9 as well as their Twitch. So
yeah, and it's a very poor Twitch crowd right now for Smash.
Yeah.
There's not really any big name streamer there. That's one of the things that I thought was actually going to help Wii U in this field. Like when Wii U got announced and they did the whole tournament at E3, I'm like, oh man, this is Nintendo turning ship around.
Yeah.
This is finally going to live up to everything that it should be. And unfortunately, it was a giant farce. But I still expected streaming to catch up with them. But
I think the biggest thing with the Smash community that we're seeing sort of as a negative thing is the Smash community is almost, I would say, 90 to 95% based on hype. Like, if you don't have hype at a Smash tournament, you're not getting viewers.
Yeah.
And that's something that you really don't see with like League of Legends fans, StarCraft 2 fans. We'll watch boring matches, man. I watched like a 3-hour StarCraft match. Like, dude, that's long, man. You're sitting there the whole time, you're bored. There's no hype there. But but Smash needs hype. They need hype.
Yeah.
To get up there.
They need consistency. They need someone that's going to say, "Hey guys, I'm streaming 5 to 9 tonight. I will be streaming this every single day this week."
Yeah.
A lot of the things that made League of Legends streamers popular was the fact that they started with great consistency, that they built an audience, they built this rapport with their audience, that their fans, got to know their life. And until, Smash players say, hey, this is my life, this is my profession, I'm going to share this with the world in hopes that, people attach to me, that I build my audience, build my brand, it's not going to get better. And unfortunately for them, they also have to deal with Nintendo's whole streaming video process, which is so depressing.
It's quite a ordeal.
Yeah, and I need to temper myself because I just made a whole bunch of points without properly reflecting on what a heel Nintendo is to actually streaming their content. But until they find a way to work around that, it's going to be hard for them to really have the same level of career success as other games.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I think overall, so what? Do we like the bounty? Do we like the bounty overall?
I love it.
I'm for it.
Let's do it more.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think it's great. I think it's great, but I really love Dylan's idea of that it carries over till Evo, and if he wins Evo, he gets it all.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
Give the kid his credit. If he's going to last the amount of cheese that's about to be thrown at him.
Oh yeah. Hey man, I'm in that Evo pool. If he's in my pool, I will cheese the hell out of him.
Nice.
Yeah, this is what you're going to have because the great thing about Smash tournaments is a lot of people get to play. Yeah. But his first round opponent's going to be like, "Oh, dude,
it's gonna be me."
Zero. What's the thing I can throw at him to just, be annoying, get my 50-50 shot here at this, any given Sunday moment? And it's going to be hard. He's going to have a much harder road now than, say,
Pre-bounty.
Pre-bounty, yeah.
Yeah. I'd be sad if it degrades the scene, too. If it degrades, the match quality that we're getting. But
I mean, let's put it this way: how much do you actually expect some unknown to take a game off of Zero? It's pretty slim to none, even with cheese.
Yeah, but I mean, I was thinking more of the fact that it would hurt Zero's kind of mentality to always be watching for the cheese when he starts to play good people.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you build up bad habits with bad practice.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I mean, it's again, going back to StarCraft, it's if you can't play against cheese, if you haven't learned how to play against cheese at the top level, you don't belong at the top level. Sure. Cheese is a legitimate strategy, and we see it in the most advanced levels of tournaments. Oh, yeah. So I think it's a good thing. I think it can only serve to develop a community strategy to let's see what the crap we can come up with in order to take this guy down.
Cool.
Okay, it's interesting, but I mean, I look at it from the point of view of if I'm playing baseball, and I play at a level where I need to be able to read a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And suddenly, I'm facing a guy who's only going to throw me a 65-mile-an-hour curveball. It's going to set my internal clock off. And if I have to go switch between playing these guys constantly, it's very disruptive. It's going to set off your bio clock. A lot of people don't realize that in video games, you have a biometric rhythm.
Sure.
That is built by how you play. And if people are intentionally just doing things to mess up your biometric rhythm, you're not playing at top performance.
Yeah,
so
I could agree with that.
This could actively destroy him if he's not careful and learns how to control himself.
Sure, yeah. and I think it's interesting too. It's kind of the thing going back to when people were talking about golf with Tiger Woods, when Tiger Woods was at the top of his game, where it's are you taking Tiger or are you taking the field?
Yeah.
And that's an actual Vegas bet. That's a Vegas bet, man. When you're taking, people would take Tiger Woods over the entire rest of the field at golf tournaments. That's ridiculous.
God,
that is absolutely ridiculous.
Y'all.
But we're hitting that point with Zero. We're at that point with Zero.
We're at that point with Zero.
It's like Mango. If you're at a tournament and Mango's there and there's no Armada, you're pretty much picking Mango.
I don't know. Box can pull it out from time to time.
Hey man, Box's soul was broken at MLG. If you're at MLG Anaheim and you watch that crew battle, Box's soul was broken there. There's some stories from MLG that we won't touch on that. But all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and we'll close this out. What are we watching this weekend? Events going up. Anyone want to go first?
I am actively going to watch for the first pro Gwent tournaments to start popping up. I've absorbed my soul into playing Witcher 3, and I find it hysterical that almost every piece of conversation around the game right now is based around the card game inside of the game.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm just waiting to see Gwent become a thing. I just think that's gonna happen.
Sure.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. That game is tons of fun. I put a ton of time in The Witcher 2 and or The Witcher 3, and it's pretty fun, dude.
I plugged in 60 hours over Memorial Day weekend, and I don't even know if I'm close to finishing.
You're not.
Wow.
Depending on how far you've gone on the story quest, you're not. Because I'm about 80 hours in, and I've done about half of the story quests. So.
Yeah, I've tried to clear the map of question marks.
Oh yeah, no, you're never gonna do that.
Oh god, it's rough. It's rough. But my Gwent deck, it is fierce. Do not mess around with my Gwent deck. I've got my Yennefer in there. Such a good card.
It's such a good card. Cable, what are you watching, buddy?
More of the WCS group. I think there's one more group for North America WCS. And then the third, that's next week, though. That's the round of 16.
Sure.
Besides that, you tell me, what should I be watching this weekend?
Well, we do have, tonight there's Coup Tigers versus the Samsung, they're not Galaxy, they're just Samsung organization.
Samsung Group of Potential.
Yeah, and the LCK. You also have the LPL and the LMS going on, and then you have you have North American and European LCS this weekend for the first week as well.
So get your fantasy lineups ready, kids.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you have all that stuff ready to go.
Chris, have you set up the fantasy team yet, man?
We might have a draft tonight.
If you say yes, then I'm gonna feel very sad because I didn't get included.
We might have a draft tonight if you want a spot, Cable.
All right, please.
I'll send you an invite after this. And also, guys, just a quick note. So the new Destiny expansion came out as well. House of Wolves.
Oh yeah.
And so there's a new mode called Trials of Osiris, or not Trials, or is it Trials of Osiris? Trials of Osiris. Yes. Okay. So
enough.
it's Trials of Osiris, and so basically what it is it's a 3-on-3 match type, and you can res your teammates as much as possible. So it's as quickly as you can get all 3 men down, and it's over the course of you get 3. Think of it like an arena run of Hearthstone. So it's up to 9 wins or 3 losses first, whichever one comes first. And yeah, you just go through the game, and there's a lot of strategy and depth to it. And it's I played it last weekend, which was tons of fun. And this weekend I'm gonna go ahead and watch some streamers and see what's going on. The cool thing is that it's only run on weekends, so a lot of teams are just kind of running, like a lot of pro teams and pro like Destiny clans are running a lot of strategies throughout the week to sort of practice up for the weekend, and see what they can get through it. So when you see 2 top teams run into each other on that ladder board, it looks really cool. Tons of fun to watch. Yeah. So go ahead and watch that.
I would love to see, and maybe we can talk about this in another show. I would love to see some kind of esports decathlon.
Oh, dude. So like the WCG Ultimate Gamer?
Yeah. Well,
did you ever watch that show?
No, I didn't watch the show. But more on an actual competitive, not like a reality show kind of thing.
Hey man, that was competitive. They played games in that show.
Dude, what about the Nintendo World Championship this year?
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Of Nintendo games.
Yeah, but they're going to be playing NEX Remix, which is cool. You can go ahead and practice at home, folks. You can practice that at home.
Yeah, so you can beat on Reggie.
Yeah, his body is not ready for you.
He is not ready. we learned from that video that Reggie's body, not ready, folks.
No, but he did get his job back from, I forget what the kid's name is. It's drawn a blank. Oh well, whatever.
Yeah, I don't. As long as they're a better representation than what Pixel's going to be.
Oh, that movie's gonna be horrible.
It's Paul Blart Mall Cop with like 80s programmers.
Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah.
Is not a reputable movie star anymore. I don't think he ever was, but okay. We'll go ahead and we'll close it out. All right, guys. So go ahead, check us in next week. Not sure what day we'll be posting it up on, but we'll go ahead and tweet it out to you. But thanks for watching. Have a very good night.